All right. Hey, what's up, guys? Chris Nelson here. It is Wednesday, January 3rd, 2024. And I will continue to say Happy New Year as it is the new year. And I feel good. I don't know about you guys, and I'm sharing this around. Please like and share this. And I don't know about you guys. I'm feeling good. Okay? Um, I'm feeling good about 2024. I think it's going to be a great year. Okay. And we start out the year with some great stuff here. And I know this will not be censored on X, but this is on YouTube as well, and Facebook. I do simulcast this on Facebook. But today, Florida Surgeon General Joe Ladapo, appointed by Governor Ron DeSantis, has called for an end he has called for a halt in the use of COVID-19 mRNA vaccines. On December 6, 2023, State Surgeon General Dr. Joseph A. Ladapo sent a letter to the United States Food and Drug Administration Commissioner Dr. Robert Califf and Center for Disease Control and Prevention Director Dr. Mandy Cohen regarding questions pertaining to the safety assessments and the discovery of billions of DNA fragments per dose of the Pfizer and Moderna COVID-19 mRNA vaccines. The Surgeon General outlined concerns regarding nucleic acid contaminants in the approved Pfizer and Moderna COVID-19 mRNA vaccines, particularly in the presence of lipid nanoparticle complexes and simian virus 14 SV40 promoter enhancer DNA. Lipid nanoparticles are an efficient vehicle for delivery of the mRNA in the COVID-19 vaccines into human cells and may therefore be an equally efficient vehicle for delivering contaminant DNA into human cells. Oh boy. The presence of SV40 promoter enhancer DNA may also pose a unique and heightened risk of DNA integration into human cells. I thought Mark Zuckerberg and Dr. Fauci said this doesn't alter human DNA. All right. That's what they told us. All right. In 2007, the FDA published guidance on regulatory limits for DNA vaccines in the Guidance for Industry Considerations for Plasmid DNA Vaccines for Infectious Diseases and Indications Guidance for Industry. In this guidance for industry, the FDA outlines important considerations for vaccines that use novel methods of delivery regarding DNA integration. Specifically, DNA integration could theoretically impact a human's oncogenes, the genes which can transform a healthy cell into a cancerous cell. DNA integration may result in chromosomal instability. The guidance for industry discusses biodistribution of DNA vaccines and how such integration could affect unintended parts of the body, including blood, heart, brain, liver, kidney, bone marrow, ovaries, testes, lung, draining lymph nodes, spleen, site of administration, and subcutaneous at injection site. On December 14th, 2023, the FDA provided a written response providing no evidence that DNA integration assessments have been conducted to address risks outlined by the FDA themselves in 2007. Based on the FDA's recognition of unique risks posed by DNA integration, the efficacy of the COVID-19 mRNA vaccine's lipid nanoparticle delivery system, and the presence of DNA fragments in these vaccines, it's essential to human health to assess the risks of contaminant DNA integration into human DNA. The FDA has provided no evidence of these risks have been assessed to ensure safety. As such, Florida State Surgeon General Joseph A. Ladapo has released the following statement. The FDA's response does not provide data or evidence that the DNA integration assessments they recommend themselves have been performed. Instead, they pointed to genotoxicity studies, which are inadequate assessments for DNA integration risk. In addition, they obfuscated the difference between the SV40 promoter enhancer and SV40 proteins, two elements that are distinct. DNA integration poses a unique and elevated safety risk to human health and to the integrity of the human genome, including the risk that DNA integrated into sperm or egg gametes could be passed on to offspring of mRNA COVID-19 vaccine recipients. If the risks of DNA integration have not been assessed for mRNA COVID-19 vaccines, these vaccines are not appropriate for use in human beings. There you have it. Providers concerned about patient health risks associated with COVID-19 should prioritize patient access to non-mRNA COVID-19 vaccines and treatment. It is my hope that in regard to COVID-19, the FDA will one day seriously consider its regulatory responsibility to protect human health, including the integrity of the human genome. In the spirit of transparency and scientific integrity, State Surgeon General Joseph A. Ladapo will continue to assess research surrounding these risks and provide updates to Floridians. Okay, there you go. That's DeSantis' Surgeon General. All right. And he's saying no. He's asking the FDA to pull the mRNA jabs. Okay. And because of these DNA fragments. All right. No wild conspiracy theories. No microchips are in them, because I'm telling you, the wild conspiracy theories around the vaccines, they did not help the cause. And the people spreading them, it did not help the cause. Because there were people with podcasts that the craziest thing you could come up with. Oh, the vaccines have snake venom in them. Oh, 100 million views. And just the craziest, most insane thing that you could come up with will get you more hits. And that's kind of how it goes with the grifters. All right? And, hey, what's up, guys? Joining me. Please like and share this. What power does the Surgeon General have? Wow. I mean, he's been going back and forth between the CDC for a while now. I mean, all year long, he's been going back and forth with these guys through their frequent changes in directors. Abdullah, I'm a supporter as well. And he's been saying that, well, first of all, he said nobody under 65 should take it. Now he's saying nobody should take it at all. So, I mean, what this does is it gives scientific legitimacy to the objections to the COVID-19 mRNA vaccines particular. And that, look, there are these DNA fragments in there. And I know you can't really see this on the screen, but there's the letter. I've posted it on Twitter. It's at the top of my Twitter. And we'll see if they get a letter back. I mean, when the CDC writes back, I mean, they sound like Trump's attorneys trying to say there was voter fraud. That's how the CDC sounds. They write like a condescending letter that makes no sense. And but then with Ladapo, he's always got his ducks in a row. Okay. And that's what I want. You know, that's what I want, because you know, that you have to have your ducks in a row with this stuff. And a lot of these grifters with podcasts, and we all know who they are, who are, say, their doctor or whatever, and their doctorate is questionable. They're not a medical doctor, okay? This is a medical doctor, Dr. Ladapo. And those people, they all hate DeSantis, by the way. Did you notice that? All the medical grifters that call themselves doctors that say crazy things like the vaccine has nanobots in it or something like that. None of them support DeSantis. They all support Trump, the father of the vaccine. You know, how do I get a copy of the letter? Go to the top of my Twitter, my X account. It's at the top, the very top, pinned to the top. So you can read that for yourself. And, so what? The people are going, only 30 people watching, blah, blah. Okay, I mean, whatever. I don't care. I'm glad 30 people are watching me. It goes down, up, sometimes. I don't, look, I don't, like, do this. I don't do these for, oh, I got so many views or whatever like that. I just do these because I do them. If you want to donate, you can reopen Chris/donate if you want, but I really don't. I don't get compensated for this. I'm just sharing information, guys, because I think it's the right thing to do. So that's today, and that is the Florida Surgeon General officially sending a letter, and we'll see if they write back. Calling for a halt to the use of COVID mRNA vaccines and giving exactly his reason why, and the research that he's done, and there you go. And it's DNA fragments, and using their own thing. They said, look, there's guidance on this, because when you're talking about altering DNA, and actually Mark Zuckerberg asked this question of Dr. Fauci. And Dr. Fauci said, no, we're not altering DNA. Remember that? Remember when Zuckerberg interviewed Fauci, and he actually asked a good question. He said, "Are we talking about altering DNA here with mRNA vaccines?" No, we're not. We're not gonna be altering DNA with this. No, and and they just but it seems like there's DNA fragments, and that this could end up altering DNA in the person that gets it, and then the offspring, which could lead to cancer possibly, and affecting all these different organs. All right, so there we go. There we go. Now, because of political reasons, a lot of these people that were big, they were against the vaccine and against Dr. Fauci, they're not going to share this. Okay, so you have to get it out. That's why I do this. You have to get it out, because the Trump grifters, they're not going to share this because it could possibly make Ron DeSantis look good, and they don't want that. They have to protect their audience. You know, a lot of these Trump grifters, they're really no different than Mark Zuckerberg and guys like that. Okay? Because Zuckerberg was like, I need to censor this and I can't share it because I want to protect you from information that could harm you. And now you got the Trump grifters who don't share this stuff because they feel like they need to protect their audience from anybody that from anything that might make Ron DeSantis look good, and that he would make a great president, which he would, because he would bring Dr. Latipo with him most likely to be the next state surgeon general. So there we go. Very excited about that. Donald Trump has a Jeffrey Epstein problem. I don't know if you've noticed this, okay? This is trending right now, all right? And I think what's happening right now with the Trump people, they're very concerned, okay? If they seem a little nervous to you lately, it's because of this. They're concerned about this, all right? Because this list is going to come out, and Donald Trump was a pretty good friend of Epstein, and they're concerned that his name will probably be all over this. So if you see them act a little funny, they're like, "Oh, Bill Clinton's disgusting. Oh, gee, Michelle Obama's a man, right? Let's not talk about Trump and Epstein." I mean, this is a problem. I don't have to worry about DeSantis and Epstein. Oh yeah, if you got one of these today, it's because, look, I'm just done. I don't. I'm not going to waste my time trying to reason with people that are unreasonable, or argue with people with 6 followers and a picture of Grimace as their profile pic. Okay, I'm just not. I got more important things to do. So so Trump has an Epstein problem, and I want to play this for you here. I got a couple videos to play, but this one video, I mean, look, who cares who put this video out? This video is damning. And I don't understand how you couldn't be concerned about this. Because there's a real, just watch this video, okay? Watch this.
Charges that Jeffrey Epstein was running a sex trafficking ring in the early 2000s that included underage girls as young as 14 years old.
Donald Trump in 2002 said of Epstein, he's a lot of fun to be with. It's even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side.
He routinely spoke fawningly of Jeffrey. He admired Epstein's lifestyle.
Your daughter, she's beautiful. Can I say this? A piece of it.
Yeah. She's actually always been very voluptuous.
What does Tiffany have of Marlon's?
She's got Marlon's legs. We don't know whether or not she's got this pregnant.
You were playing tennis and you came off the court. Quote, "Look at that piece of I would love some of that." It so happened that Trump was referring to Cohen's then 15-year-old daughter, Samantha.
I had the impression that he was interested in younger women, and that, women would age out for him.
Miss Teen Universe? Yeah, that's like giving Jeffrey Dahmer a cooking show.
I'll go backstage before a show, and everyone's getting dressed and ready and everything else. And I'm allowed to go in because I'm the owner of the pageant, and therefore I'm inspecting it. I standing there with no...
Donald Trump is heard making questionable comments about a young girl.
You going up the escalator? I'm going to be dating her in 10 years.
A lawsuit against the presumptive GOP nominee alleges he raped a girl when she was 13 years old.
Prince Andrew answering questions for the first time about his friendship with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein.
I don't know Prince Andrew. but it's a tough story.
Trump has been photographed with Prince Andrew as far back as the year 2000.
Ghislaine Maxwell is accused of helping Epstein sexually abuse underage girls.
I've met her numerous times over the years, especially since I lived in Palm Beach, and I guess they lived in Palm Beach. But I wish her well.
You know about sexual predators and things like that. I mean,
You are one.
All right, I was going to say that, but it's true.
Look, I mean, they're hitting him with his own words. Pedo Trump, they're hitting him with his own words. I mean, what's the defense for that? What's the defense for that other than, oh, come on? Because that's kind of like what I hear when I show this, and I'm like, guys, like, what is the excuse for this? And what I get are these weird things like, bless your heart, Chris, or like, you don't understand, or, oh, come on. That's like the Trump people's favorite go-to. What does that even mean? Oh, come on. And then they start talking about Biden. Well, Biden talked about leg hair standing up. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of gross too. But like, how is these kind of ads are going to be running all over TV if Trump's the nominee. If you think he's got some kind of slam dunk against Biden, this is the stuff they're going to be running. They want Trump to be the nominee over DeSantis so bad. They can't be running this stuff with DeSantis because DeSantis doesn't do this weird stuff. All right? Yeah, I mean, this is the kind of stuff. And then you had Alex Azar, who had no background to be the Secretary of Labor, that Trump made Secretary of Labor, the prosecutor that went easy on Jeffrey Epstein. Alex Azar. Trump made him Secretary of Labor, and then when all that hit about when Epstein got arrested again, indicted in New York, then Alex Azar had to go because they're like, oh gee, the guy that went easy on him and that allowed him to continue to assault these underage girls, which was a lot. It's really gross what Epstein did. It's really disturbing. He preyed on girls in West Palm Beach. He was over in Palm Beach and he preyed on girls that didn't have fathers, and he targeted women, young girls, and had other girls basically recruit other girls for him to come over and give him massages. It's really gross. And then you hear Trump talking about his daughter like that, and guys, I mean, this is a problem, and I think that you see the Trump people and that they're concerned about this, and rightfully so. Then you got this. All right? Then you got this. This is Trump's official account. Oh, these DeSantis accounts, says Tucker Carlson, oh, these DeSantis accounts are so mean. They're just, what did he say about it? They're dumb and mean and whatever. Screw you, Tucker Carlson. He always has that bewildered look on his face. This is Tucker Carlson. He's always like, when they're talking, he's always got the, oh, and he's like, well, what do you want me to say? I'll say whatever. Tucker Carlson will say whatever. He doesn't he'll just, if Tim Pool wants to hear that DeSantis supporters are annoying, he'll say DeSantis supporters are annoying. If you want to hear that the vaccine's bad, he'll say the vaccine's bad. If you want to hear that Trump's bad, he'll say Trump. If you want to hear the earth is flat, he'll tell you the earth is flat, whatever. But look at this. Look at what Trump War Room. And I think this is Stephen Chung, one of the most disgusting Trump people that runs this, because this sounds like him. This is how he talks. Look at this grifter, Erin M. Perrine, trying to use her previous Trump association. This Erin Perrine is smoking hot, by the way. And she's well over 18, so that's okay to say that. But yeah, she is. She's beautiful, okay? Look at this grifter, Erin Perrine, trying to use her previous Trump association to get on TV. She chose to side with the sanctimonious, and nothing can ever wash that foul stench of shit off her. MAGA disowns her, and anyone else that associates works with her. Traitor! And this is weird. This is weird. And, they're mad because, and it's still up. They don't care. They'll double down on this. They're not going to care that people called this out. They'll double down and say, and they'll put out another tweet about it. This is what she was. This is the segment that triggered. I don't think Erin Perrine works with Never Back Down before, DeSantis' super PAC, but she used to work with Trump, and this is the segment that triggered them.
I think Julian was really spot on there. And to his point about the White House continuing to pander, they are already out there knowing that these polling numbers were coming, knowing that Joe Biden is losing that base of support that was a key coalition to him winning in 20. They are now going to be targeting minority communities, the White House doing more outreach to try and shore up and bring those voters back on board. But another point here, when you look at this polling, isn't that Donald Trump is building more within these coalitions. We've seen slight movement, but it's not like these voters are leaving Joe Biden and going to Donald Trump, especially with black voters. They're looking at a third party candidate as a possibility there. That's a spoiler for Democrats if that is the case come the 2024 election here. If there is a third party candidate that is pulling their coalition voters away, that is really not a direct vote for Trump, but a passive vote for Trump, because taking those votes away from Biden softens his support and just strengthens the ground that Donald Trump is standing on. And the Democrats have to look at a major enthusiasm problem because of the political pandering they have been doing for so long to try and keep voting blocks intact at the behest of the progressive left. You are seeing that enthusiasm and high enthusiasm for Joe Biden is very low. But you see for Donald Trump that when people are asked, you're looking at 44% of the voters, likely voters for Donald Trump, are saying they are at a 10. They will run through a brick wall to show up on election day and make sure their vote is cast. This is we're looking 10 months out. There's a long runway to election day, but sirens should start going off in the White House and certainly for the president's reelection to start making moves now if they think they've got any chance in November.
All right, Aaron. Okay, so this is what happened here. Okay. So, she's not with Never Back Down anymore, and it says former Trump campaign communications director. Okay. First of all, Aaron, let me just tell you, this whole myth that black voters are running to Trump is exactly that. It's a myth, okay? And by the way, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. just qualified for the ballot in Utah, all right? If anything, all right, black voters and people that are sick of Trump, they're not going to run to Trump, okay, or sick of Biden. They'll go to a third party. They'll go to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. You don't think they'll go to Robert F. Kennedy Jr.? All right. He's set up to be the big third party candidate. But here's what's going on here, okay? Okay, first of all, Aaron, really, look at what they say about you, okay? Why talk up Trump? Why talk up Trump in any way? All right? Why? Blast this guy. Look, so this is what you get, Aaron. This is what you get. This is what you get from Trump world, okay? You go on TV, you say something nice about him, and because you were with Never Back Down, this is what you get. She chose to side with the sanctimonious, and nothing can ever wash that foul stench of shit off of her. MAGA disowns her, and anyone else that associates works with her. They're trying to do this intimidation thing. This is what they do, okay? If you're perceived to be disloyal or an apostate, really, they view her as an apostate now. You can't look at this in political terms. You got to look at it in cult terms, because this is a cult we're dealing with. Stephen Chung is saying that DeSantis cheated on his wife with someone while she was pregnant. No, that's Donald Trump. No, DeSantis didn't cheat on his wife. Donald Trump cheated with Stormy Daniels when Melania was pregnant with Barron, okay? Stormy Daniels, a porn star, all right? He cheated on her, on Melania. I doubt that's the only time he's cheated on her. I believe he's cheating on her right now. No, that DeSantis did not cheat on his wife while she was pregnant. But that reminds me, because I think Stephen Chung is the one who runs Trump War Room, and he's a giant pig, and he's disgusting, and he says stuff like this, and he lies, and pretty much everything they project onto DeSantis, it's something Trump did himself or his doing himself. All right. So with this, look, Aaron, they're trying to send a message here. They try to intimidate. That's why they and then they do this thing like, oh, you'll never come back into MAGA land. We know about your disloyalty and you'll never be welcome back. So here's my question to Aaron Perrine or anybody else. Why is there this feeling like you need to go out and promote Trump? Oh, because we have to beat Biden and then no. Look, there is no reason to back this scumbag Trump and be going around and saying good things about him. If anything, people should take this and see how Aaron just got treated. And no, I don't think DeSantis should pardon Trump. I don't think he should. I don't think he's doing that for Trump, though. I think he's doing that because he wants to see the party healed after this. But and it would kind of be like hey, here you go. I'm giving you your pardon now, buddy. Even after all you said to me. But no. Look, I think DeSantis should let Trump sit in jail for at least a year. All right. If you've seen Trump's lawyer, he's in trouble, man. But here's my message to anybody like Aaron, who might have worked for DeSantis before and maybe thinks that they're obligated to go and say good things about Trump. Maybe she just thinks that she's just giving a report, doing a hit on Fox News and saying what the truth is. But there's no reason at all to go and back this guy. All right, this is what you get. All right, this is what you get. You're never gonna wash the stench shit off you. And here's Tom Cotton doing the walk of shame. Another one. When Donald Trump was president, America was safe, strong, prosperous. No, it wasn't. Cities were burning down. What are you talking about? I endorse President Trump and look forward to working with. I mean, this is pathetic. Tom Cotton, this is pathetic. This walk of shame that they feel that they have to do. They have to debase themselves for Trump. It's disgusting. Tom Cotton, back in March 15, 2020. I know many of you are distressed that your church is closed this morning, but it's a prudent precaution for you, your family, your community, and your nation. Well, Tom Cotton, he was okay with closing churches down over germs, so why wouldn't he be endorsing the guy who closed them?
What I have, I think that no other candidate has, is I have a record of delivering on 100% of my promises. If you look at all the problems in this country that the left is inflicting, from open borders to crime to the bad economic policies, I've beaten these people in Florida, whether it's the teachers unions, whether it's George Soros, whether it's the Democratic Party. We took a state that was evenly divided, and the Democratic Party now lies in ruins. We've shown how to win. You guys have been covering the issue with the Harvard president getting fired. I'm the only one running for president that's taken on the rot in higher education. In Florida, this whole idea of DEI, they say it's diversity, equity, and inclusion. It really stands for discrimination, exclusion, and indoctrination. We eliminated it from our public universities. We are focusing our universities on the core mission of what academia used to be, pursuing truth and preparing our students to be citizens of the republic, not to be indoctrination centers. So I've taken on the left and beat them in ways that Donald Trump and other candidates just simply have not. And this is the do or die time for this country. We're in a period of decline. We need to reverse it. I'll get it done.
Got it. There you go. We can have this guy. He put Chris Rufo on the new College of Florida board. Chris Rufo is the one who exposed the Claudine Gay plagiarism scandal. Now accusing somebody of being plagiarist is racist. All right? And now we got the media having a meltdown over Dr. Ladapo asking that the COVID mRNA jabs be shut down, that they not be put out anymore, okay? They can have all the meltdowns they want. It was media that inflicted a lot of this stuff on us by keeping everybody afraid. Okay, here's Trump's lawyer, which, I wonder why he hired her. I mean, have you noticed that, like, Trump has kind of he's got a type, man. He really does. But, guys, Trump's in trouble legally, okay? Trump's in trouble. Listen to this.
So what is the next move from your team, from the legal team, in terms of the Colorado decision, which you all have not appealed yet?
It's imminent. It's imminent.
It's imminent.
We will be doing so.
Okay.
I have no idea.
This is what
I
Meg
have
said.
no clue. Basically, I've been partying. I've been going to Mar-a-Lago. Because she wants to be. I mean, you can tell she wants to be the next Martha McCallum. Okay, she wants a show. She wants to be a reality star. Huma Hababa, Helena Haba, what Haba Baba. Okay, Trump picked her because she's hot. Okay, let's just be real. That's why he picks people. He did not pick her for her astute legal acumen, okay? Because she doesn't have any, all right? And that she's always partying. She's partying with him on New Year's Eve. She's partying here. She's partying there. Speaking at Turning Point USA, which is just bizarre. This is his lawyer. And she's, like, making herself into a reality star. And she wants to be another news pundit, or she's looking at her future after Trump, just like everybody around Trump is. They're all looking at Trump to spring them to something bigger and make celebrities out of them, and that's why they're. I mean, Trump's kind of like he's like the guy that makes. He's like I'll make you famous, man. He's like I'll make you famous. I'll make you famous overnight. You've been overnight celebrity. I'll make you a celebrity overnight. You know. And they're all like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna be a celebrity." And they're like, "Is she even a lawyer?" Trump. This is the crack legal mind that Trump has as his attorney. She doesn't know. I mean, they don't know. They put in this. I mean, they put in this brief with the Jack Smith stuff about that, like, included this anonymous thing of all this nonsense of why Trump won the 2020 election. That's completely disproven and not. I mean, this is gonna be a problem, guys. This is gonna be a big problem. All right. And here we go. We got Surgeon General Latipo. He's calling for a halt to the use of mRNA vaccines. This is who Ron DeSantis picks. That's who Trump picks. Ron DeSantis picks serious people. And he's not going to have a staffing problem when he gets to that White House, okay? People are the best in the nation are going to be tripping over themselves to want to work for Ron DeSantis, okay? It's not going to be bottom of the barrel people, and because Trump, who the hell would want to work for Trump with the way he treats people? And then he'll bring you down with him. Look at all these people. Look at all these people in legal trouble. Look at Mark Meadows. Look at all these guys in legal trouble because they got involved with Trump. Why would anybody want to be in that kind of administration? All right, DeSantis is going to bring the best people with him. DeSantis is having another. He's having a meet and greet with Chip Roy and Thomas Massie this Sunday. Troy Polamalu is trending. Why? Former Steelers. This day 8 years ago, Troy Polamalu rocked off the field for the final time as a Pittsburgh Steeler. Great guy right there. Okay, I'm losing viewers. I'm getting off track. Okay, Troy Polamalu. He was good. He was a great Pittsburgh Steeler. So. Oh, here, listen to this, okay? You want to talk about January 6th and whether it's an insurrection or not? I mean, listen to this. My fellow conservatives still saying January 6th was a riot, not an insurrection, but they were singing a different tune about the BLM riots. Okay, just listen to this by Pat Tip Caledon Free right here. Listen to this.
This has to stop tonight. We have to draw a line. There has to be a marginal line tonight. The Antifa and these criminals have declared war on civility in the constitutional republic. This is not a joke. This is an insurrection.
I mean, we had this coup attack on the president, this attack on our borders.
Yep.
We're now in the middle of an insurrection, a communist, Marxist, Mayo type insurrection.
The other night, anarchists and rioters in the street, destroying property, risking lives. Unfortunately, we've seen that in so many cities all around the country this summer, whether it's Washington, New York, Chicago, Portland, Seattle. One consistent thing we've seen, though, is all these liberal mayors and governors think that they can reason with these rioters and these insurrectionists. But in the end, it's not enough.
This is a big deal because this is this close to being insurrection. This isn't just another Antifa demonstration. These people are in with collapsible batons. They
have taken over. This is a hostage situation. And I don't understand why they somehow think that it's the summer of love. No, this is a summer of crime, outright insurrection and crime. And it's going to last as long as these weak wuss officials in Washington State allow it to happen.
There's almost nothing, but I condemn that. But he should condemn also Antifa. Antifa is a horrible group of people. They kill people. What they do to people, and they're causing insurrection, they're causing riots. He doesn't want to do that. But the
threats, they say that they're going to threaten riots if they lose on election night, assuming we get a winner on election night. What are you going to do?
We'll put them down very quickly
How are you
if they
gonna do
do
that?
that. We have the right to do that. We have the power to do that if we want. Look, it's called insurrection. We just send it.
So what is an insurrection, okay? Because I always thought it was like trying to overthrow the government. Clearly, though, no. They all wanted those things called insurrections. Okay, so what's an insurrection? All right? Is it just when it's people you don't like, then it's an insurrection? There's actually there's a definition of it, actually. And, okay, so definitions of insurrection, okay? The act of revolting against a government or political authority, a violent uprising against an authority or government, an organized attempt by a group of people to defeat their government and take control of their country, usually by violence. See, I always thought insurrection was the third definition, okay? I thought it was the third definition. So the question is, was January 6th an insurrection? By any of those definitions? And did Trump provoke this? Okay? What makes me the most mad is that Trump knew that the election was not stolen, but lied about it. Okay? The fact that he knew his expert, his guy that he hired, Kenneth Block, came back to him and told him that no, he could not find anything that would hold up in court to overturn the election. But he told people that it was stolen anyway, even though he knew it wasn't. Okay? That's what makes me the most upset. Okay? That's what angers me the most. Check this out. Check how much is being spent against Ron DeSantis. Okay? And tell me who the deep state and the corporatists are afraid of. All right? Rob Pyers, another milestone. Ron DeSantis has now been targeted with over $40 million in negative independent expenditures after this latest $1.8 million buy from Nikki Haley's Super PAC SFA fund. $40 million against Ron DeSantis. $20 million against Biden, 19 against Trump. Who are they really afraid of? And these are like independent expenditures. These are the people like the BlackRocks and stuff like that. Who are they afraid of? Are they afraid of Trump? Is Trump the one that they're, oh God, Trump's going to foil our problems. We can't let him back in. I mean, they tell you right there, $40 million against Ron DeSantis. That is, I mean, they're telling you exactly who they're afraid of. All right, so please, enough of this nonsense that, oh, gee, Trump is the one that, oh, I'm backing Trump because he's the one that they're the most afraid of. The numbers don't reflect that.
Guide you and give people an example of where you relied on that and made a decision as governor because of that. But then the other side of that from these folks is, how do you make sure that there exists a separation between church and state, essentially?
Well, faith in God is just who I am, and my faith is my foundation. It's how I am able to deal with issues when the seas are choppy, when people are gunning for you. I put on that full armor of God, and that allows me to have the strength to be able to lead. We saw this when my wife got diagnosed with breast cancer. Major thing. I mean, our kids were 4, 3, and 1 at the time. And we didn't know, what was going to happen. The prayers we got from people, not just in Florida, but throughout the country, lifted her spirits. It lifted our family spirits in a way that was really powerful. And I'm a firsthand believer in the power of prayer. And as governor, I think I would not have been able to stand strong during COVID, during some of the fights we had where we beat Disney on the transgender ideology, keeping that out of the schools and the elementary schools, because you got a lot of people that gun for you. And so I think having that faith, the faith in God really gives you the foundation where you're standing strong for what's right. Now, in terms of how that relates beyond that, I mean, we're a diverse country. I mean, I've gone to, just in Iowa, I've gone to a number of different denominations, and they all have, you know, great traditions, and that's, government needs to be neutral amongst that. I mean, you know, there's not going to be an established denomination versus others, but we are a country that is based on the idea that our rights come from God, not from the government. That's in the Declaration of Independence, and you absolutely have a right to not just go to church on Sunday and practice your faith there, but to live your faith in what you do in your daily lives. We're going to make sure that we restore religious liberty in this country, because when you have situations where a football coach like Coach Kennedy is losing his job in Washington State because he led a voluntary prayer at midfield after a high school game, he has to go all the way to the Supreme Court. That is not what our founding fathers intended. They absolutely intended that your faith would be an important part of who you are, and that you have a right as a free citizen to live that out to the fullest.
And there you go. You know, there is a guy, and that's who he, you know, he stands on his faith. Because if you're just going with the opinions of others, you're going to be screwed. I mean, if you're just caring about what other people think, you're screwed. Now, where is you know, where does he stand on anything? It's like, where does the line drawn? Okay, and the line gets drawn with his faith. Okay, if you want to know what strengthens Ron DeSantis with all these obnoxious attacks from asshole Trump and his obnoxious supporters, and how he got through all the attacks during COVID and everything, there you go, his faith. This town hall last night was really, really good. It was really, really good. I might just play the whole thing again. It was really good.
We have been collecting questions from Iowans all across our state. We have a lot. We're going to get to as many of them as we can in an hour, so shall we just jump right in?
Let's roll.
All right, you're an old ball player from Yale. Not that you're old, but you know what I meant. So I'm going to start you with I'm going to give you about a batting practice fastball, okay, to get rolling on this. This is from Kathy from Western Iowa. She just says, quite simply, are you really going to be better than Trump like you say you are?
Well, thanks for the question, Cassie. Yes, I'm running because I think that I'd be the best candidate for the party, and that I would be the best president. And not just for 1 4-year term, but actually for 2 4-year terms. We need a 2-term president to be able to fully turn this country around and to make a lasting change. I mean, I think a couple things. One, if you look at my record in Florida, I won the biggest election that's ever been won by a Republican. We need to win big across the country. We don't want to be waiting up 2 a.m. to be counting votes. We want a decisive victory. I'll deliver that. Second, you need somebody that's going to be able to deliver on all the promises. And I delivered on 100% of the promises that I made in Florida. And if you look at all the people that are causing so many problems with our open border, with the economic problems, all this stuff, I beat those people in Florida. We've racked up huge victories. Ultimately, leadership's about producing results. I also think it's important that you're able to recruit good people to serve in an administration. You can't do it by yourself. The president will set the agenda, make the decisions, but you got to have a cadre of good folks there that are doing that. I think the former president had trouble there. I think he'd have big trouble recruiting good people if he could even get elected again. I'm going to have great people around us, and you're going to see a big difference. This government has gotten out of control. We need to return it to its rightful owners, we the American people.
We had a handful of questions talking about the decision both in Maine and Colorado to keep the former president off the primary ballot, and Donald Trump was appealing that today. Jeff was among those who asked, and it's just asking simply, why do you support Trump in saying that this was not the right action? And just for a little background on this, the decision was made by these 2 respective secretaries of state in those states, saying that they felt that Trump was involved in what they considered an insurrection back on January 6th, 2021, on the attack by Trump supporters at the U.S. Capitol building. So why do you stick with Trump on that?
Well, I'm sticking with the Constitution. I mean, I think at the end of the day, when I was served in the Navy, I mean, I'm the only veteran running for president, and I'd be the first veteran elected since 1988 who served in a foreign war. I recall very distinctly taking that oath of office, and it was to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America. It's an oath that I've taken as governor of Florida, and it'll be an oath, of course, that I would take as the president of the United States. So I have to call them like I see them when it comes with the Constitution. I don't think we want to go down the road where one bureaucrat in a Secretary of State's office can take somebody off the ballot and take away the opportunity for people to make a judgment. There are disabilities in the 14th Amendment for things like insurrection and rebellion, but what's the due process that a candidate would have? You don't even have to be convicted. If we start going down this road, what's to stop a Republican state from saying, 8 million illegals have come in under Biden. He's permitted an invasion. Can he be taken off the ballot? So I have to support and defend the proper interpretation of the Constitution as I see it. And even if it's one of my competitors, I'm going to do what's principled in my judgment. Now, I will just point this out. If any of the other candidates had been taken off the ballot, Trump would be spiking the football. I mean, let's just be clear. He would not come to anyone's defense, but I'll do it because I think it's the right thing to do.
Okay, we have one more Trump question, kind of along these same lines. I believe you used to be able to hit the heat when you played baseball, so there is a little bit of heat at the end of this question, but it's from Terry Fitzgerald from Lamar's, and he's just asking, why do you protect Trump? What are you scared of? And we had a few questions like this, basically. Are you scared of Trump? Is that why you don't criticize him more? How do you address that?
Well, Terry, I take issue with that. I mean, I have rendered very sharp contrast between Donald Trump and myself with respect to policy. For example, he's running on a lot of the things he promised to do in 2016 and didn't deliver on. He said he was going to build a wall and have Mexico pay for it, didn't do it. He said that he was going to drain the swamp, didn't do it. He said he was going to eliminate the debt, and yet he added $7.8 trillion to the debt. So those were not things that he dealt with effectively. The Democrats seemed to beat him on the budget. The Democrats beat him by denying the border wall, and that's not going to happen with me. I'm going to get all these things done. If you look in Florida, not only did we not add to our state's debt, I paid down 25% of our state's debt just since 2019. We cut taxes every year. We banned sanctuary cities. We even helped transport illegal aliens to sanctuary jurisdictions like Martha's Vineyard, which really helped change the dynamic on that whole issue. So on issue after issue, we've actually delivered. And I've delivered on 100% of my promises. Donald Trump was not able to do that. But I also don't like the way he gets involved in some of the pettiness that he does. That's just not how I roll. We look higher. We set a good example. But we're tough when it comes to contrasting on issues, judgment, and results. I have the results. I'm right on the issues, and I'd be the better choice for president.
You mentioned the border, which foreshadows this next question from Carol Garvey in Sioux City. So she is looking for your 3 ideas when it comes to border security.
Well, thanks, Carol. I think this is a top priority for me. It'll be a day one priority. We will declare it to be a national emergency on day one. I'm going to have the military on the border to stop the invasion cold. But one of the things we have to do is people come illegally. We've had millions under Biden. I'm going to deport them back to their home country. You have got to do that. Donald Trump promised the largest deportations in history. He deported less, believe it or not, than Barack Obama even did. So I'm going to do that. Number 2, we are going to build the wall and have Mexico pay for it. How do you do that? Mexico's just going to give us money. You charge fees on the remittances that workers send overseas. That'll raise billions. We'll build the wall. But most importantly, we're going to hold the Mexican drug cartels accountable. I'm going to categorize them as foreign terrorist organizations. That's going to give us an ability to use deadly military force against them. But here's why. They are invading our country and poisoning our people by the tens of thousands. Every community in this country has now become a border community because of fentanyl going in. I've spoken with people here and parents here in Iowa and across this country who have lost kids to fentanyl overdose. And what you find is a lot of times they're not drug addicts. They may take one pill thinking it's something else. It happens to be laced with fentanyl, and they get poisoned to death. And this is happening all over this country. I am sick of it. And as President of the United States, I'm not going to let it stand. You not only have a right, you have a duty to fight back. I will fight back against the Mexican drug cartels for you.
You mentioned deportations. Does everyone in this country illegally get deported?
Everybody is subject to that. I think we're going to do the Biden 8 million. That's a big task. Eisenhower had a program in the 50s, so we are going to do that. Here's the thing. If you don't do that, then people are going to continue to come illegally because they're going to say, okay, if you just get across the border, they give you a sheet of paper and tell you to what? Come to a trial 2 years into the future? It just doesn't work. And so you're going to see that. There is going to be a sanction. The rule of law is going to be enforced.
So how do you decide who would get to stay? Is it, if you've been here a certain number of years, is not that?
Well, I don't think it's a question of saying anyone, quote, gets to stay. I think it's like, okay, you have limited resources. How do you apply those? So what we would do is we would focus on the people that have come under Biden, and we would clear those out. That's 8 million. That's not something that'll just happen at the drop of a hat. I mean, that's going to require a big effort, but we're going to do it because I don't think there's any other way that we're going to be able to secure our country. And here's the thing with what happened with the Biden people. You have people from over 100 different countries that have come. You have people from Iran and other Middle Eastern countries. China have come across the southern border. We have made ourselves vulnerable to a terrorist attack because of what's happened at the southern border. I think the president owes an obligation to stop the invasion and to send those people back to Iran or China or Russia or all these other countries.
Karen has a related question. Karen Thornton from Sioux City. The term she uses, some people won't like this term, but will you stop anchor babies from getting citizenship and then keeping the illegal family here? As you know, the policy here, and I believe this is in the Constitution, that if you're born in this country, then you would become you get citizenship. I believe former President Trump has talked about eliminating this. Where are you on this?
Well, former President Trump said that in 2016. He said that he was going to eliminate what's called birthright citizenship for illegal aliens. Now, obviously, American citizens, when they have a kid, you're a citizen at birth. Everyone agrees with that. And the 14th Amendment was ratified to overturn Dred Scott versus Sanford, which was a terrible Supreme Court decision to ensure that African Americans were citizens. It was not intended to mean if you come illegally and you have a baby that somehow the baby becomes a citizen, because that means you can't deport the illegal parents. So I think that that's been interpreted wrongly. And yes, we will ensure that there is not automatic birthright citizenship for illegal aliens. I think it creates a bad incentive. If you just get across the border and you're here illegally and you have a child, then all of a sudden that's basically your ticket to stay in this country. That was not what that was intended to do. There will be litigation on that. It will likely be decided by the U.S. Supreme Court. But yes, we are going to end the practice and fight that fight.
I have talked to some Iowa Christian conservatives who have followed how you flew out some migrants from Texas, flew them to Martha's Vineyard, and had Florida taxpayers pay for that. They are saying that while they want more focus on border security, they do not, frankly, feel that is a Christian-like effort to take people from one state, move them to another, and then whatever the process is, to get them taken care of or whatever, what have you, in Martha's Vineyard. How do you respond to that?
Well, actually, I mean, I don't think that that's a good analysis. I mean, these were people that were basically destitute. Biden wasn't doing anything. He's letting them in, and they're basically on the streets. And so they were transported to a sanctuary jurisdiction of Martha's Vineyard, partially because the policy should be they shouldn't come in illegally, period. But if Biden's letting them in, they should go to sanctuary jurisdictions. Martha's Vineyard's very wealthy. They had an office saying that they want anyone to come regardless of status. They held themselves out to be a sanctuary jurisdiction. That was much better for the illegal aliens to be in Martha's Vineyard than where they were. So if you don't like it because you think Martha's Vineyard came out looking bad because Martha's Vineyard wouldn't even take 50, well, that's fine. But it was definitely better for the illegal aliens. And that just shows you Martha's Vineyard, one of the wealthiest enclaves in the country, obviously very liberal, likes open borders. They wouldn't even accept 50. We have communities across this country that are being overwhelmed. Medical system, hospitals, schools, all these other things. And when we sent that, and when Texas has sent to some of these blue enclaves, that has caused the issue to rocket to the front of center. And that's really, I think we have to have an honest conversation about this. So it was the right policy. It had a huge impact on elevating this. Now they're even talking about the open border in enclaves like Manhattan, where you have a lot of liberal voters, because they're seeing the impact on their communities. And I think we all can agree, you cannot have a country if just millions of people are flooding in. It just doesn't work.
But why is that? Why not do that from people who might be in your state illegally?
Well, they did come to Florida, and then they were taken from Florida to Martha's Vineyard. So that did happen.
Okay. All right. So money matters here. We had a lot of these, as you might guess. This one is looking for kind of somebody comparison shopping here. This is from Maria. How are your economic policies for blue collar workers better than Donald Trump's policies back from when he was president? How would you address that? And we'll get to the tax cuts in a sec.
Well, Maria, I would say that as governor of Florida, our economic record is second to none. Florida is rated the #1 economy of all 50 states. We're one of the few places where incomes have actually gone up more than the prices have. Because when I talk to Iowans, one of the things, and actually people over the country, they're working hard, but because of the Biden inflation, they feel like they're losing ground. It's hard to afford a new home when interest rates have gone up so much. Florida's been one place, even though we've had to deal with that, the economy's done well, so you've seen rising incomes. I think that that's important. And if you look at 2020, that was a terrible year for this country. The first 3 years of Trump, I think the economy was sound. The fourth year, because he initiated the lockdowns with Anthony Fauci, that was devastating. The reason Florida did well is because we bucked Fauci. And we bucked the Trump administration and had kids in school and had the businesses back open in no time. That's caused the state to really boom. I would also say we've done a much better job fiscally than Donald Trump did. He added $7.8 trillion to the debt in a 4-year period. Since I've been governor, we've cut taxes every year, big time. We've run budget surpluses, and I've actually paid down 25% of the state's total debt from the time Florida was a state until the present. We've knocked off 25%. Wouldn't it be nice to have somebody in Washington that could actually reduce some of the debt? It's almost unheard of that would be the case. So I think our fiscal record is second to none. Our jobs, and we have the #1 fastest growing state, and with the migration. And then the final thing I would just say is the size of government. Florida has millions of more people than the state of New York, which is our closest population-wise, and yet our budget's half the size of New York State's budget, and our number of state employees per capita is the lowest in the United States. And yet, when people move to New York to Florida, what do they tell me? You have better infrastructure, better roads, better services, better schools. So we're able to do that at half the cost and half the footprint. It shows you that this federal government is way too big. We need to reduce the size and the scope of government. Donald Trump did not reduce government at all when he was president. We need to do that. The bureaucracy is totally out of control, and I'll be the guy to come in there and bring it to heel.
I mean, your winters may help a little bit, too.
Well, look, we have great weather, but I think in the winter, but I think the reality is we've always had that. California has great weather, and yet people are fleeing California in record numbers, and they're coming to Florida. So, yes, it's part of that. Now, I have said this. I think it would be totally appropriate to try to have a satellite Iowa caucus location in Naples, because I've got so many people from the Midwest. Did that last cycle. You know, I've got Iowans, and sometimes I'll run into some of these folks and they'll tell me, "Oh yeah, we're going down to Florida in January." I'm like, "Are you going before the caucus or after?" Some of them are going after, but some of them are saying, "Well, we're going to go for, maybe we'll come back." No, please come back. But in the interim, man, maybe we need to look into doing that.
You mentioned the debt and spending, and I'm watching some of these questions come in real time here. We have probably about a half dozen here that more or less are saying, give people something tangible here. What is something when it comes to federal spending? And here's a chunk here. This one specifically talking about more federal coming in that you receive in Florida than you get in federal taxes.
John, with all due respect, that is a total misnomer. what that is saying is that that's counting Social Security benefits. That's not the state of Florida getting money from the federal government. That's people's Social Security benefits. Yes, we have some senior citizens in Florida, but that's not welfare. They paid into that program, and it's going to individuals. So we are not on the dole from the federal government. The only way you can make that argument, and a lot of liberals have done that, and it's very dishonest, is to count the Social Security benefits as somehow Florida's getting all this. The state of Florida, of course, does not get any Social Security benefits. Those are senior citizens' benefits that they have earned. So we've done it right in Florida. We run a tight ship, very fiscally responsible. And then the results, though, you look at our budget's half the size of, say, New York, yet education, we're ranked #1 in education by U.S. News and World Report. Our state university system is now ranked #1 by U.S. News and World Report. We're not spending more on K-12, certainly than New York and California, but we're getting much better results. Part of that is because we have universal school choice, and we're empowering parents to make the best decisions for their kids.
All right, let's dig in a little bit on spending, since I mentioned we're getting a bunch of them concerning that. When Donald Trump ran back in 2016, he had talked about that he would be able, I think at the time he said 4 or 5 years, would be able to balance the budget. In the end, they added about $8 trillion to the federal debt, which is now roughly around $34 trillion or so. What is something practical you can tell folks about when is a balanced budget possible? Is that something that can even happen in one term? Does that take you to the second term? And can you give them something concrete and maybe even a little bit simplistic to figure out how you're going to make that kind of sizable cuts?
Yeah, well, first of all, Trump didn't just promise a balanced budget. He said he would eliminate the national debt. So that's much more than a balanced budget. And he added $7.8 trillion in just a 4-year period. Just to put that in perspective, our first 210 years as a country, from 1789 to when the Constitution came to 2000, it was about $5.6 trillion over that whole period. And now we're sitting at like $34 trillion. So that they've not been able to get it done. Biden, Trump, Obama, none of them have gotten it done. What are we going to do? One, we need to put the spending levels back prior to COVID. That would save hundreds of billions of dollars. They ratcheted up the spending during COVID. I think that was a huge mistake. If you look at how they handled all that printing of money has led to you paying more for prices, because when you print money, of course you're going to get inflation. It's driven us deeper into debt. It's caused interest rates to go up. And now you have massive amount of money for interest on the debt. So bring that spending back to where we were 4 or 5 years ago, freeze that in place for the non-defense, and then get the interest rates down so that you can handle the debt without having this drop $800, $900 billion or $1 trillion a year. We used to be at $200 billion a year to finance the interest on the debt. That has gone up because of the fiscal mismanagement that we're dealing. And then I think reducing the size of government. We're going to reduce the bureaucracy through attrition, through layoffs. We're also going to take about 50,000 bureaucrats, put them in a Schedule F who have policymaking positions. They will be fireable at will. So we're going to take the lessons from Florida that you can discharge the core functions of government with a small footprint. We end up saving a lot more money as a result of that. And I've been willing to veto spending in Florida. 1 year I vetoed 3% of the budget. If Congress is putting these jalopy of a budgets on my desk, I'm going to be willing to veto it, send them back, and make them spend less.
So can you get balanced budget within the first 4 years, or is it too much to do that?
I think you could. I think the issue is I need a Congress that's going to work with me. I'm going to work very hard to help elect a lot of Republicans to the House and Senate in 2024. And I think, like in Florida, I won big and we had a lot of people sweep in with us. It's a team effort. You got to do it. But I also think this is a time for putting your money where your mouth is, because Republicans have been running for years claiming they want less government and fiscal responsibility. They haven't really delivered it in Washington for an awful long time. I think the last time we've had a balanced budget was in the late 90s when you had a Republican Congress. Haven't seen much there. So at some point, you've got to deliver on being fiscally responsible. The Democrats are honest about what they want to do. They just want to tax and spend. They don't make any bones about that. Republicans have been promising fiscal responsibility and have failed to deliver. We delivered it in Florida, and we'll deliver. But here's one thing I do think we just need to look long term. We need structural reform in Washington. The reason why we have what we have is because the incentives are to have more debt and to have this behavior. We need term limits for members of Congress so that they can get things done and go back and live under the laws that they pass. We need a balanced budget amendment to require a balanced budget in the Constitution. And then we need to give the president the line item veto authority. As governor, I can line item individual items out of the budget without having to veto the whole budget. And as president, right now, president's got to sign the whole doggone thing or veto the whole doggone thing. But, you know, they're spending your tax dollars to do things like promote transgenderism in Bangladesh. How is that something that is worth tax dollars? And yet that's there. Wouldn't it be good if a president could veto all that pork out there? We would save tens of billions of dollars in no time.
Didn't Newt Gingrich say those same three things though back in the Republican Revolution in '94?
Yeah, but here's the thing: they were one vote away from a balanced budget amendment. They passed the line item veto. It got struck down by the Supreme Court. Supreme Court said you can't do it statutory. And term limits is the most popular thing. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to try to do it through Congress because I know Congress isn't going to do it. We'll do it through the states under the Article 5 of the Constitution. Florida has already certified these. Other states have certified it. I'll use the bully pulpit to work with the states to be able to certify amendments. It's perfectly in the Constitution, and it's because the Founding Fathers realized if you want to reform the nation's capital, a lot of times the swamp critters aren't going to want to be the ones to do it, so you got to go around them.
This is our guy right here, okay? Do you see what he's talking about there? He's talking about using Article 5. Nobody else is talking about this. You want to know why the swamp is all behind Trump? Trump doesn't even know what Article 5 of the Constitution says. The states can amend the Constitution, guys. 19 states have already passed this. Go to conventionofstates.com. We can do this. If DeSantis becomes president, we can put term limits on Congress, have a balanced budget amendment, and oh my goodness, and all the people that are shrieking and the Magadonians that are going nuts, they don't want this. They don't want things fixed. They like to complain. I want things fixed.
Talked about the tax cuts before and got ahead of myself. Question coming in from Dubuque about the tax cuts from 2017. A chunk of these will expire in 2025, primarily the ones that had to do with personal income tax, not necessarily on the corporate side. As you look at what Republicans passed with Trump as president, Republicans controlling the chambers, what changes, if any, would you do regarding taxes? Or would you just extend them?
Right. Look, we cannot allow taxes to go up. So we will make those rates permanent. On the personal side, people need to have certainty to know, particularly small businesses who oftentimes pay at that personal rate, that those are going to be the rates, and that's how we're going to go forward. We do not have a revenue problem in this country. In fact, 2022, I think it was the highest percentage of GDP we've had in revenue since World War II. We have a spending problem in this country, so we are not going to let those tax rates go up.
Okay, one thing that is a money matter in this state that kind of cuts into a lot of different topics is these carbon sequestration pipelines. There were 3 projects, now it's primarily just 2, but we had a whole host of questions on this. I'll just pick one of them, and it's from Cindy in Denison. And she's looking specifically at the process of, would you support taking land by eminent domain for a private company for the private gain? And as you know, these companies say that this would essentially be the last resort if they can't reach a mutual deal with these landowners. How do you look at that?
Cindy, I do not think that that's an appropriate use of eminent domain. Eminent domain is for public use. And so there was a situation in Connecticut that went all the way to the Supreme Court called Kelo versus City of New London, where they eminent domain a woman's home because they had a private development that would be more lucrative for the community. I thought that was an abuse. The Supreme Court mistakenly upheld that. So I've long been a critic of expansive use of eminent domain. Eminent domain is something that is a legitimate power that our founders recognized, but it's limited. It's limited to public purposes. So sometimes you need to build the interstate highway system like they did under Eisenhower. Sometimes you need to do things like the Keystone XL pipeline for for energy that has a public use. But that's different than something for just private gain. So I think individuals have a right to the vitality of their private property, and private property rights are very important to me. And we will absolutely, as president, not champion an expansive use of eminent domain power. Certainly by the federal government, it will be narrow as the founding fathers intended.
Where do you come in on the pipelines themselves? As you know, these projects are put together where they would aim to receive federal tax credits of some sort. There are some who believe that pipelines are not worth the investment. And, you know, if you're worried about carbon, they have some, I'm not smart enough to explain this, but those big machines that essentially suck the carbon out of the air that are given up. Are pipelines, I told you I wouldn't be able to explain that. Are the pipelines a worthy use of any kind of taxpayer assistance?
So this is all goes back to Biden's Inflation Reduction Act and his Green New Deal. I oppose the Inflation Reduction Act. I oppose the Green New Deal. I think that you're talking about trillions of dollars that are going to end up being spent to try to re-engineer an economy that's ultimately not going to be in your best interest. For example, they want to kneecap production of reliable energy. They don't want to have new leases for things like oil and gas. And that's going to make it harder to fuel the electric grid or support the electric grid. Yet they want to force you to buy an electric vehicle. He wants to mandate that most vehicles in this country are electric, but a lot of consumers can't afford it. A lot of consumers don't want it. California has actually mandated, it hasn't taken effect yet, but it will soon, that you can't buy a new car in California unless it's electric. But then they turn around a couple days later and they put an announcement saying, anyone that does have an electric vehicle, don't plug it in because their power grid can't hold all that stuff. So they have rolling blackouts. I think the sum total of Biden's government-dictated green energy policies are that you are going to have rolling blackouts throughout this country. When we deal with hurricanes, we got to get the power back on. I can just tell you, I can't rely on solar panels for that. I gotta have the oil and the gas and the reliable energy. So we're going to open up all of our energy for production. We have great domestic supply, including biofuels here in the Midwest. I want American-produced energy with American jobs. I don't ever want us to go hat in hand to Venezuela or to Saudi Arabia for energy. Energy strength and dominance against what Biden's trying to do is good for consumers. You'll pay less in gas, you'll pay less in energy costs, but it's good for our national security because we control our own destiny.
As you look at that $34 trillion debt and a variety of energy industries that we subsidize or give credits in one way or the other, should the federal government be involved in that at all, or should it just step away and let the free market figure this out?
Well, look, I think that when you're talking about there's a whole bunch of different things that people will point to. Some are just basic business deductions, and they'll say that that's somehow a subsidy for like gas companies. No, if any business can do it, it's not any type of special thing. It's a business expense, depreciation costs, all that stuff is new. But here's what I think. Putting the thumb on the scale for government-dictated green policies is just not going to work. It hasn't worked anywhere that it's tried. China is eating our lunch on this. They want us to be more reliant on China for the things that fuel electric vehicles, the batteries and whatnot, and they want to make us more reliant and our allies more reliant on traditional energy from hostile countries. It makes no sense. And so we're going to open up. We're going to have an all-of-the-above strategy, and I think that we can be dominant in this field.
I have a specific one about wind in a sec, but just got one from Deborah in Minden. Why do you feel that ethanol is a worthy investment when you're talking about oil alternatives?
Well, look, I think biofuels are American-made. They produce good American jobs, and that they're part of an overall strategy to have strong energy policy where we control our own destiny. I think it's been a big part of the Midwest and the economy here. I think a lot of farmers have done better as a result of having that as an option. So, and that's one of the things I've been able to do just by traveling around. I've been to all 99 counties. I've been able to go to a lot of farms. I've been able to go and visit a lot of ethanol plants. And I've been able to talk to folks who've been impacted by this. What we're going to do is we're going to open up the blend wall because there's potential to do much higher blends and people want to do it. Actually, actually, I think it was in Kansas. I was talking to a fella. I don't know that it's authorized, but they're doing higher blends, and people like it. And so, if there's a market for it, why not let them do higher blends? So you're going to see that, with the E15, and then even higher than that.
And you can get E15 in this state as well. Let's talk about that wind question here, specifically about wind turbines. As you made the drive, as you have numerous times going along I-80, you can see these going west and east. You can see these turbines all over. Now, Daniel from Hornick is not a fan of these wind turbines. He's looking at it like this is a dangerous assault on people's life, liberty, pursuit of happiness being destroyed under the guise of green energy. He does not like seeing the wind turbines dot the landscape. Where are you when it comes to wind?
Well, Daniel, clearly, I mean, we're not going to be imposing that from the federal government. I know in Florida, there's been a strong reaction against some of this stuff. I think our legislature is actually contemplating ensuring that they can't put up the wind stuff off the Florida's coast. Part of that is for tourism purposes, and part of that is just for protecting some of the birds and some of the other things. And I know they've had problems in New England with some of the marine life on it. So ultimately, that is not something that we will jam down from the federal government.
But if those are out on the Iowa landscape, you're fine with that? You see no reason to stop those?
Well, it's not.
If they're approved locally?
I think it's something that's more of a local question. I mean, what I don't want to get into is I believe a strong believer in the 10th Amendment. I want states to be able to govern themselves. If there's certain federal authority where we could be involved, that may be one thing. But on some of this stuff, I think it probably is outside the purview of the federal government to micromanage how a state would handle some of those issues.
Nikki Haley has talked about eliminating the gas tax. Do you support that on the federal level?
I mean, I would, but I think that, the reason why she's doing that is because she tried to raise gas taxes when she was governor of South Carolina. And that's something that hits consumers in a really, really big way. So I've never supported raising gas taxes. We need to be lowering energy costs. Part of that is by producing more, of course. And so we're going to be able to get that done. I think that whether Congress would ever do that, I think is probably something that's more of campaign rhetoric. But if that were on my desk, I would sign it.
Let's talk about Social Security. I know this is something that has come up at some of your town halls as people look longer term at this. How do you view the financial security of our Social Security system, and where do the changes have to happen?
Well, first, I think just to point out that senior citizens have earned these benefits. They've been taxed their whole life. Some people, say that these are the same as like entitlement programs or welfare programs, but that's not true. You've been taxed every paycheck you've ever had. You've been taxed for this. So promises made need to be promises kept. It's important that seniors have their Social Security. So for me, you can take that to the bank. That will happen. As governor of Florida, we've got a lot of Social Security recipients. And I think back also to my own family. My grandmother lived till 91. Social Security was her sole source of income. That's not true for every senior, but it is true for a lot. So especially when prices are rising, you get a cost of living adjustment, but that's not enough to handle what's happened with the increase in groceries and all the other attendant costs of just living a decent life. So it's important. I understand that. Now, we need to get interest rates down. We need to get inflation down. That will help the solvency of Social Security. It'll help us service the debt much better. That's important. Now, longer term for people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, that's going to be something that you're just going to have to work with Congress on in a bipartisan way. To say, okay, what do we need to do to strengthen the program for the long term? But I don't support what others have proposed, Nikki Haley and others, to say sometimes reducing Social Security benefits in a high inflation environment. I don't think that makes any sense at all. I think that would be destructive for seniors.
A series of questions here regarding veterans, but then also international affairs. And I told you some of these will be the high heat. This is one from Alan in Atlantic. 2018, you said in an interview that as a legal advisor, you advised commanders at Guantanamo Bay on the legalities of force-feeding inmates who are on hunger strikes. This is considered torture by the UN. Can you expand on your role back then?
Well, first of all, that's just not true. This happens in prisons all the time where people do this. and there's intervention.
Hunger strikes, you mean?
Yeah, there's been interventions that are done just with court approval to keep people alive. So I think that's just something that a lot of the liberal corporate media has tried to spin up to doing that. I can tell you this. Just as a young naval officer, when I went down to Guantanamo Bay, I had an image of what was going on down there based on what the media was reporting. When you actually got down there, it was a very professionally run operation. They were following all the available rules. And as somebody that has served in Iraq as well, I can tell you, if you had a choice to be in Gitmo or in like the Fallujah local jail, Gitmo was much, much more humane. So a lot of that stuff, I think, was more of a narrative than anything based in fact.
Several of these want to know specifically when it comes to veterans about the large numbers who are homeless. You are a service member, and clearly we can point to a myriad ways where we have not fully supported veterans when they return home. So maybe first, if you can just go into the homeless side of this, what has to be done on a federal level?
So first, I'm the only veteran running for president. I'd be the first veteran who served in a foreign war elected president since 1988. So veterans issues are close to my heart. These will be top tier issues with me as president. And I don't think we've had a president that's put them front and center the way they should have been in my lifetime. So we will do that. Now, here's the thing. The homeless problem is largely a symptom of the underlying issue that the federal government has not done a good job of servicing veterans' mental health needs. A post, seeing people walking in front of you, you don't know who's a terrorist and who's not. Very high stress. You got to make split-second decisions. Of course, you see some of these people were engaged in significant arms fire, IED attacks, you name it. So veterans coming back that have post-traumatic stress, veterans that come back and get involved in substance abuse, that is not something that is unforeseen. War is hell. This is the stuff that happens. So two things. One, as commander-in-chief, I'm going to be mindful of the costs of that. I hope to never have to deploy troops. I believe in peace through strength. But if I do, I'm going to be mindful of the costs that go into that, and only if it's in our national interest to do. But we need to do a better job on dealing with the invisible wounds of war. Now, the VA has not done a good job. The VA is a massive bureaucracy. I'm going to fire some of these bad bureaucrats. We're going to bring accountability to the VA, but I don't think a bureaucracy that big ultimately can completely do the job. So what we're going to do is take something that we've done in Florida, a model of enlisting all these different parts of society who want to be helpful. So we have something in Florida called the Care Portal. We're going to have that in the VA. Veteran goes in, maybe they have post-traumatic stress. So yes, the VA can work to service that, but it goes into the portal. You have veterans organizations, charities, businesses, individual volunteers, churches, all plugged into the portal. Veteran will have a need. Maybe they have post-traumatic stress. Maybe they got evicted from their apartment. All of a sudden, you'll have a church come and help the veteran. You'll have some of these veterans groups. We have groups in Florida that train service dogs to help veterans with post-traumatic stress. And guess what? The suicide rate goes down dramatically. It may even be something as simple as a veteran is really struggling. Somebody local in the community has agreed to volunteer. Maybe they just go up and say, you know what? Thank you for your service. I care about you. Let me take you to lunch. Talk to me. What's going on? That could be the difference between somebody committing suicide or not. So I think the homeless problem flows out of the problems that we've had with mental health and substance abuse. We're going to have a totally new approach. We're not going to put all our eggs in the bureaucratic basket. We're going to use government to help facilitate these connections to so many great things that are going on in this country. Because I can tell you there are very few communities that I've been to, certainly in Florida, that do not want to help their veterans. Let's harness all that energy so we can actually achieve better outcomes.
One emailed in specifically about veterans benefits, saying that those are not enough and doesn't provide him what he needs. How do you address that? Pretty generic. But.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know exactly what I mean. Obviously, we have pension benefits that people can earn if they serve 20 years. Obviously, I support that. I think that that's important that we'll be able to do. Some of the health benefits, I think, very well may be inadequate. There's parts of the country where some of the VA system, the veterans give high marks to. There's others where it's not the case. So I don't think it's even throughout the country. But yes, there's when you're willing to put the cloth of your country on, particularly if you're injured and harmed in the process of discharging those duties, we have a responsibility to care for you. I mean, Lincoln, in his second inaugural address, one of the things he pointed out, wasn't a very long speech. He said to take care of those who bore the cost of battle for us, and we have responsibility as a society to do that.
We've had different periods in our history where men and women have signed up to join the military because of something. 9/11, one of the more recent ones from 20 plus years ago. As you have seen across the country, the military is struggling to get younger people to want to sign up, right? So what can change? What can change that?
Well, look, I'm one of the veterans that I had a different path in life planned, and then 9/11 happened, and so I decided that our country was in a conflict, and I needed to raise my hand and serve, and so I volunteered to join. Didn't necessarily make nearly as much money as I would have made if I were doing things in the private sector. Didn't get my schooling paid for, but the satisfaction of wearing the cloth of your country mattered to me. This was during the Afghanistan and Iraq conflicts. I volunteered to serve in Iraq. Wasn't necessarily the best conflict in the world at the time. There was a lot of problems going on there, but I felt that you have to stand up and serve. And I know a lot of veterans have felt this way. I think part of the reason why we're struggling, I think it's twofold. I think one is a lot of the political leaders have not done a good job in managing these conflicts. I mean, just think of what happened with Afghanistan. To leave behind billions of dollars worth of weapons and tanks and vehicles, and then to have 13 service members killed, that was humiliating for this country. And what does that message send to people that may be thinking about joining? Because when you join the military, you're writing a check payable for an amount up to and including your life to the United States of America. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know where they're going to send you. So I think a lot of the failures there have caused morale to go down and less people. I also think, largely driven by civilians, you have had political agendas imposed in the military. Things like woke, social experimentation, all that. That is not what the mission is about. And when people see that they're not putting the mission first, you think, well, that may not be the type of military I want to join right now. And I have veterans coming up to me in Iowa and beyond, and frequently they will say that they're not sure they would advise their kids or grandkids to join the current military. So as commander-in-chief on day one, I'm taking all the political nonsense out of the military. We're going to refocus it on mission first. Promotions are going to be done through merit and achievement. And that's the way it's going to be. That's going to create an increase in morale. And I think more people are going to want to serve. And I'll be very vocal as commander-in-chief and as a veteran that military service is a noble calling. You know, John F. Kennedy said that you can look back on your life with a great deal of pride and say, I served in the United States Navy. And that inspired a lot of people to want to join the Navy. Ronald Reagan said that some people spend a lifetime wondering if they've made a difference. U.S. Marines don't have that problem. And that's inspiring when you hear the commander-in-chief talk about what it means to wear the cloth of your country. So you can count on me to do that.
We do not have troops who have responded to Russia's attack in Ukraine. Ian from Sergeant Bluff messaged in that the U.S. does not need to be involved in Ukraine. This is something Senator Joni Ernst from Iowa has talked about and pushed back against, explaining why to her it is in the vital interest to stop Putin's attack. I know this is a topic that comes up in town halls when you take questions from folks. How do you explain to people why the U.S. has to be involved in this?
Well, look, I don't think as I'm president, you will not see any U.S. troops in Ukraine. I think that that's the way, unfortunately, it's heading. I don't think Biden would do that before the election. And I think there are other candidates running on the Republican side that may be willing to do that out there. I would not do that. I mean, I think that we have to look to see what is a vital interest, what's a secondary interest. And the way I look at it is Russia's primary threat is to the European countries. And yet some of these European countries aren't doing anything significantly to help. Some are, Poland, Finland, some others. but they should all be doing 2.5% of their GDP, our NATO allies, for their defense. We're in a situation where we face one peer competitor, and that peer competitor is China. And so my national security strategy is going to focus on making sure that we deter Chinese ambitions in the Indo-Pacific. That's going to require more naval strength. It's going to require us to be able to project more power in the Indo-Pacific. And yes, that's a strategy to deny them the ability to do things like invade Taiwan. But even beyond that, because they want to break out of that first island chain and dominate in the Indo-Pacific. I don't think you can spend hundreds of billions of dollars in Europe and also do what you need to do. So when I get in, yeah, Europe's going to be told some hard truths. You guys have to step up. You guys are going to have to get the job done. But I'd also think about some of the things that they've said, because, you have some politicians saying, Ukraine needs some more ammunition, some of these other things. But if you look at the amount of money total that's gone, most of that is non-military. They've sent your tax dollars to pay salaries for bureaucrats in Ukraine. They actually sent your money to pay pension payments for retired government workers in Ukraine. How is that America's responsibility, especially when we have our own southern border that's sitting wide open? So I think the two top security threats to this country is the rise of China and our own southern border. As Commander-in-Chief, I will deal with both of those starting on day one.
You mentioned education earlier, and we have several questions about education. One comes from Terry in Sioux City, and she's talking about education on a national level here. I understand that the Department of Education is a huge bureaucracy, in her words. Since its inception, U.S. test scores have plummeted. What's the solution here?
Well, the solution, Terry, is to recognize that the Department of Education has failed and to eliminate it and restore power to states and localities. Fact of the matter is, in Florida, we've leaned in on all these issues. We now rank 3rd and 4th, respectively, in 4th grade reading and 4th grade math. We're a big, diverse state, and yet we have more school choice than anywhere in the country. We've got charter schools, we've got private schools, scholarships. We have scholarships for students with unique abilities, and even our public school districts have choice programs within those. That's the type of innovation we should want to spur. Unfortunately, the Biden administration uses the federal government and the federal Department of Education to try to fight back against states that are doing what their people want. For example, I signed legislation in Florida ensuring that our girls and women athletes can compete with fairness and integrity without having men injected into their competition. Biden administration opposed that. They want to have boys competing against the girls, and they were going to they tried to take away school lunch money from poor kids because we were protecting women's sports. So I think the whole U.S. DOE has been a big failure. I think what they've done in K-12 has not worked. And I think that we need a new approach.
If you do abolish it and push a lot of this back to the states, what happens, for example, with testing? How do we measure one state versus another? How do you know if your state's doing well?
You do that. I mean, so for example, the NAEP exam, the nation's report card, that's administered on a state basis. So we do it. You absolutely can do that. The NAEP results in Florida, you saw the effect of school choice and the effect that we had kids in school during COVID when California and New York, some is not. They had huge learning loss as a result of what they did. Florida in 4th grade reading, 4th grade math had its best performance ever.
All right, we're in our final 10 minutes, so I'm going to bounce all over the place. We have a lot of many unrelated questions. Stacy from Sioux City has a very direct question, but perhaps get at the core of anybody running for this office. As simple as possible here. What is your main reason why you want to be president?
Well, Stacy, we're in jeopardy of being the first generation of Americans to leave to our kids and grandkids in America less prosperous and less free than the one we inherited. If that happens, we'd be the first generation of Americans to do that. I am not going to stand idly by and watch the managed decline of this country. And I'm running for president because we need to reverse this country's decline. We need a new birth of freedom, and we need to usher in a revival of the American spirit. And I'm the leader that can get the job done.
All right. Terry wants to know the 3 strengths you feel that you uniquely bring to this race.
Well, thanks. I think that's a great question. I mean, one, I think the fact that I'm a veteran, I think we need another veteran as president. We haven't had one in a while. I think that's really, really important. Two, I have a record of achievement that's second to none. If you look in Florida, all my promises I delivered on 100%. We were able to defeat the left, defeat the teachers union, defeat George Soros, defeat the ACLU, the Dems, all this stuff on all these key issues. You need somebody that has that proven record. And then I think having leadership and judgment and an ability to actually articulate a vision and bring that in. I showed an ability to do that in Florida through some pretty turbulent times. If you look at COVID-19, governors have not been tested like that in our lifetimes. Some failed. In Florida, we really set the standard for how we handled that, and now our state is doing better than others. But leadership, it's not about entertainment. Leadership's not about showmanship. Leadership is ultimately about producing results for the people that you represent. And I had to make decisions during COVID that put the interests of my people, their jobs, and their freedom over my own personal political interests, because I was getting hammered all the time for a lot of the decisions I was made to buck conventional wisdom. And I was perfectly willing to let the political chips fall where they may, because I had to stand up for those folks. So I'll be a president that will fight for you. And it's one thing to say that when the wind's at your back. It's much more difficult to do that when they're shooting at you and slinging arrows at you. You can count on me, though. When the chips are down and you need someone standing up for you, I'll be the guy to do that.
We've had a bunch of questions that have talked about polls. And as you know, we talked before this started tonight that this was not going to be a bunch of inside baseball poll questions. So I will just phrase one in this way, which is a little indelicate perhaps, but for some of these people who are trying to find the distinction between Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis, when someone calls you and accuses you of trying to be Trump light, how do you respond to that?
If you look at what happened with what we've done in Florida, I've delivered on policies that conservatives and Republicans have wanted for years. Even before Donald Trump was ever even a Republican, much less was president of the United States. And, you know, I have a lifetime of service to this country. I have a lifetime of record of putting service above self. Who else takes, you know, I had degrees from some of the most prestigious universities in the country. I could have made a lot of money doing a lot of different things, and yet I volunteered to serve in Iraq and join our military. Not a lot of people do that who end up running for office. So we have a record of putting the country first, putting your interest before my own interest, and actually delivering on all these results. I mean, with all due respect to Donald Trump, he's running in 2024 on a lot of the same things that he promised in 2016 and didn't deliver. And had he delivered on building the border wall, Biden would not have been able to bring in this many millions of illegal aliens, because the wall's a physical fact of life. That's why we supported that. So I think if you look at how we've delivered in Florida, the record is second to none. And I think those people who say things like that, I don't even know that they know they're talking about. And oh, by the way, who's the number one guy that all these people have been going after, spending $40 million? You know, Trump and Haley have spent all the money attacking me because they see me as the threat. And, you know, a lot of people in Washington see me as the threat. A lot of the New York and D.C. corporate media outlets have been gunning for me from day one, you know, trying to do anything they can to do, because I think they know if nominated, I will win. But even more important than that, when I get to Washington, there'll be a new sheriff in town. We need a change agent in D.C. We can't just rearrange the deck chairs on the Titanic.
All right, we're down to our last couple of minutes, so I have to smash a couple of questions together, but and it's a serious matter. It involves faith here, so it may be indelicate to do that. But how does faith guide you, and give people an example of where you relied on that and made a decision as governor because of that? But then the other side of that from these folks is, how do you make sure that there exists a separation between church and state, essentially?
Well, faith in God is just, you know, who I am, and my faith is my foundation. It's how I am able to deal with issues when the seas are choppy, when people are gunning for you. You know, I put on that full armor of God, and that allows me to have the strength to be able to lead. We saw this when my wife got diagnosed with breast cancer. major thing. I mean, our kids were 4, 3, and 1 at the time, and we didn't know, what was going to happen. The prayers we got from people, not just in Florida, but throughout the country, lifted her spirits. It lifted our family spirits in a way that was really powerful. And I'm a firsthand believer in the power of prayer. And as governor, I think I would not have been able to stand strong during COVID, during some of the fights we had where we beat Disney on the transgender ideology, keeping that out of the schools and the elementary schools, because you got a lot of people that gun for you. And so I think having that faith, the faith in God, really gives you the foundation where you're standing strong for what's right. Now, in terms of how that relates beyond that, I mean, we're a diverse country. I mean, just in Iowa, I've gone to a number of different denominations, and they all have, great traditions. And that's, government needs to be neutral amongst that. I mean, there's not going to be an established denomination versus others, but we are a country that is based on the idea that our rights come from God, not from the government. That's in the Declaration of Independence. And you absolutely have a right to not just go to church on Sunday and practice your faith there, but to live your faith in what you do in your daily lives. We're going to make sure that we restore religious liberty in this country, because when you have situations where a football coach like Coach Kennedy is losing his job in Washington State because he led a voluntary prayer at midfield after a high school game, he has to go all the way to the Supreme Court. That is not what our founding fathers intended. They absolutely intended that your faith would be an important part of who you are, and that you have a right as a free citizen to live that out to the fullest.
A handful of questions looking beyond the primary, looking to you becoming the nominee. I know you haven't talked specifically at people's names as far as running mates, I don't believe, but can you talk about the type of person, qualities you would need for a team?
Yeah, look, I think that I have 2 main qualities.
If you want to drop names, do that too, if you like.
That are non-negotiable. 1, the individual has got to be able to be president if it comes to that. And there should be no question. I'm partial to governors because I think governors have the best training in terms of actually having to make executive decisions and then also working with the legislative branch to be able to advance policy. The second thing is it's got to be somebody that shares our vision. Because what you don't want to have happen is put someone on the ticket, we run on a certain vision for this country, God forbid something happens to me, and then the person that fleets up ends up going in a different direction than what the voters voted for. So I think those 2 are non-negotiable, and I think those are much more important than some of the other political considerations that get thrown out. You need somebody that could do the job and somebody that shares your values.
All right, we have half a minute left. The successful caucus candidates in Iowa history always have what is essentially a bumper sticker message that folks think about when they show up, in this time it'll be January 15th. Usually reflects kind of what their theme, what their mission is. What's your bumper sticker message about why you and not somebody else?
Very simple. Donald Trump is running on his issues. Nikki Haley is running on her donors' issues. I'm running on your issues, your family's issues, and turning this country around. That'll be my sole focus. It's not about me. Got a lot of humility in doing this. As a leader, I'm just a vessel for your hopes, dreams, and aspirations. I will get the job done for you.
Governor Ron DeSantis, first candidate to sit down in this statewide conversation. We appreciate safe travels.
Yeah.
January 15th, caucus night, and stay with us, stay tuned. We'll tell you when we have the next candidate slotted for this, but we are now down to just 13 days, so stay tuned. Right in?
Let's roll.
All right, you're an old ball player from Yale. Not that you're old, but...
All these Trump supporters on the Mario space right now, they're all like, oh, this isn't about Trump. It's about Epstein. It's all about Epstein. Da, da, da. Trump's buddy Epstein, guys. Trump's buddy Epstein. All right. You can't disconnect Trump from Epstein. And man, I'm glad Ron DeSantis never hung out with that guy. I mean, you know people by who they hang out with. And that listening to these guys go mental gymnastics.
Person's implicated are Republicans. I don't care if they're Democrats. I don't care if they're libertarians. I don't care anything about that. I don't care what.
As long as it's not Donald Trump.
I want them held accountable. I don't even care. Look, I don't know who said that, but it sounds like free. I don't see him up here, but whatever. But whoever is guilty of crimes on that island or in Jeffrey Epstein's various locations in the United States, Florida, New Mexico, wherever, they need to be held accountable.
Why did he make Alex Azar the Secretary of Labor? The guy did not have a background for that, and he had to step down. Once all of Epstein's crimes came out and the sex trafficking stuff came in New York, he had to step down. Yes, it does. He's the prosecutor that went easy on Epstein. Your guy Trump that you have in the picture rewarded him with a high-up position and allowed these him to continue to prey on girls. You're cool with that? You're cool with that? I'm not.
Chris, do me a favor a second. Try to keep it documents.
All right. Okay. So I'm gonna go on this Mario space with these guys as long as they'll let me stay up on the stage. But you know, we don't have to worry about having connection to Epstein. Ron DeSantis. So oh yeah, I wanted to play one more thing for you guys because this is the Madame Cleo thing on Jesse Waters was just hilarious. He has a Trump psychic on and she's going through her tarot cards and she pulls out a Grim Reaper. Says he's got one foot in the grave. That kind of that was appropriate. So all right guys, have a great night. This was a great town hall. Have a great night. Chris Nelson, please like and share. Thanks for watching.